This is the world-famous Titanic. Despite its tragedy, it was the most luxurious ocean liner of its time, and its first-class ticket cost up to £4,350 in 1912, which is about a whopping $100,000 today. So why was its first class so expensive? Well, let's see why. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more amazing, so expensive videos. Let's get started. Accommodation. The first reason the Titanic's first class was so expensive was because of the luxury accommodation. The ship had a total of 9 decks, making its height equivalent to that of a building with 11 floors. Only the topmost few decks were dedicated to the first class accommodation. This is where the noise and vibration from the ship's engines were lowest. Despite being an ocean liner, the Titanic's primary focus was luxury. The first class, in particular, was built to mirror the luxury of New York's top hotels at the time. The Titanic's first class didn't just have rooms, they had full-blown hotel-style suites. The cheapest ticket you could get on the Titanic's first class was for the standard cabins, for around £30 at the time. In today's money, that would have been about £3,000. These somewhat modest cabins, modest compared to the other ones in first class, were located on the A deck, or the uppermost part of the ship. These standard cabins consisted of either single or double berth staterooms. They came with their own dressing table, sofa made from fine horsehair, and a marble sink. Some of the standard cabins also had extra bunk beds that could be folded down over the main bed to accommodate guests. After the A deck, the B and C decks consisted of more lavish staterooms for the first class passengers. These had double beds instead of single beds and were far more spacious. They came with built-in wardrobes, electric outlets, and a call button to call a steward. Despite the whole of first-class accommodation being centrally heated, these more luxurious staterooms got their own electrical heating and could request their beds be electrically warmed by a steward. Then we get to the most luxurious accommodations on the first class, the suites. Altogether, the Titanic had 39 of these luxury suites. The ticket prices for these first-class suites ranged around £870, or $49,642 in today's money. With these prices, you can expect nothing less than a luxury suite at a 5-star hotel. These suites came with spacious walk-in closets, ensuite bathrooms, and separate space for servants. Parlor Suites. The second reason why the Titanic's first class was so expensive was because of the ultra-lavish Parlor Suites. The Parlor Suites would have been the most expensive things on the ship, coming at around £4,350 in 1912, or, like I said before, a whopping $100,000 in today's money. There were altogether 4 of these exquisite Parlor Suites. They took up so much space, there were only 2 Parlor Suites per each deck on the B and C decks. The ones on the B deck were the more luxurious of the suites and were called the Promenade Suite, because these suites had their very own promenade decks, where people could walk on and privately spend time. They were also close to the first-class entrances, so all that heavy luggage of the richest passengers could be easily carried. Each of the Parlor Suites were lavishly furnished. They each had not 1, but 2 walk-in closets, a private bathroom, and very expensively furnished, spacious living rooms. The living rooms were designed to hold parties, and they had a faux fireplace, card tables, comfy couches, and writing desks. So, as we can see, the Titanic was quite literally a hotel on the sea for those who could afford those things. Sporting facilities. The third reason why the Titanic's first class was so expensive was because of access to state-of-the-art sporting facilities. First-class passengers had access to private squash courts, gymnasium, and a swimming pool. While those may seem like nothing compared to the ultra-modern cruise ships of these days, which feature entire water parks, the Titanic's sporting facilities were quite lavish for a ship of its time. Remember, this was only 1912. It's around the time of World War I. So, what did the state-of-the-art gymnasium have? Well, it had a punching bag, rowing machine, mechanical bicycles, a weightlifting machine, an electric horse, and 2 electric camels. Not sure why. What on earth were electric horses and camels? Now, they aren't electric joyrides you get to at the theme parks or anything like that. Like their name suggests, they were electrical machines that moved like horses and camels to strengthen the core and arms. Yeah, exquisite food. The fourth reason why the Titanic's first class was so expensive was because of the exquisite food it served. It wouldn't have been called the most luxurious ocean liner if the food was subpar. Like a 5-star hotel, the meals on the Titanic were exquisite. Did you know that the Titanic was one of the few ships that offered food for all of the classes on the ship? Yeah, this includes the 3rd class. In fact, there are still a few menus that survived the tragedy, which show us a glimpse of what their final meals were actually like. One menu from one of the dining rooms, we can see that the guests enjoyed dinners with 10 courses. These included the finest and most indulgent meat, poultry, and seafood dishes. Some of these dishes included oysters, crab, squab, salmon, lamb, and duck. They were also the fine cuts of meat, such as sirloin steak or filet mignon lily. Aside from spacious first-class dining rooms, there were also restaurants where patrons could enjoy some fine dining. Of course, these were extra and you had to pay for the meals, but the most luxurious and expensive of the restaurants was the a la carte restaurant in the 1st class. The dining room of the a la carte was modeled after the one at the Ritz and could accommodate 137 guests in one sitting. According to many sources, the restaurant was the most lavishly decorated out of all of the rooms. It featured elegant French decor, specifically the Louis XVI Baroque-style furniture and decor. There was even enough space for an orchestra. In fact, on the night of the tragedy, some of the wealthier passengers were hosting a lavish party at the a la carte restaurant. Suffice to say, it didn't go on for long. Much of the food was modeled after French cuisine and included dishes such as the pâté de foie gras and peaches with chartreuse jelly. Needless to say, none of these come cheap. There were also other French-style cafes and restaurants. Now, of course, with all this indulgent food, there has to be amenities where you can work off all that extra weight. So there's no wonder the Titanic had a well-equipped gym and sporting facilities. Other amenities. The 5th reason why the 1st class of the Titanic was so expensive was because of the sheer amount of extra amenities that were available. Apart from the squash courts, swimming pool, and gym, there was also a spa area with Turkish-style baths. The use of the baths was obviously separated into the different genders, with women only being allowed at a certain time and then men only being allowed at another time. The Titanic also had its very own barbershop for first-class passengers, so the passengers could be well groomed during the voyage. Other amenities for these passengers included libraries, reading and writing rooms, smoking rooms, as well as grand lounge rooms. The promenade deck was also a popular area for meetings and gatherings. Titanic spared no expense in keeping their guests entertained as much as possible. However, featuring a restaurant with an orchestra, you'd think they'd have laundry facilities. But apparently, they didn't because of the lack of fresh water. Hungry for more so expensive videos? Click on the playlist to the right to binge watch reasons why stuff such as the Rolls-Royce Phantom are so expensive.